Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC. W5FC. Meeting on the air first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? And we'll go ahead and get started. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control station this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with nighttime, daytime, sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in the topic. Encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a direct net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me this evening. Stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a field tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the infamous node Echolink 37247. Tonight's topic, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is whiskey5friedchicken.org, w5fc.org right now for a sleep list. Tell others about this popular net. Remember, everybody is welcome to check in. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is approximately 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society. Discussion topic of the evening was up. Space exploration, space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. We may or may not get to all of those. So let's get started. I'm going to look for low-power, short-time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come now with your call sign phonetic, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low-power, short-time, just because I'm curious.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
Okay, I got W5QS Gus in far northeast Dallas. I'm going to go ahead and put Philip, K5KOB over there. He's on actually YouTube, but he's a regular guy who checks in. So I'll put him in. Anyone else low power short time, please come in.
Kilo India 5, uniform, Juliet, Dustin, Dallas, low power. This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, long time.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5, BLT, Bill, Garland.
All right, let's hold up there for a sec before we go into general check-ins. Let's see here. I had to turn the page, and Justin, I got you KI5 UU, and then I lost you because I was turning my page, so to write you down. Can you give me your full call again and where you're located?
Yeah, it's Kilo India 5, uniform, Juliet. Name's Dustin, and I'm located in Dallas.
Oh, thank you, Dustin. I'm sorry, I messed you up both on name and call. KI5 UUJ, Dustin in Dallas. And I got WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, long time. Then I got Bill, W5BLT, Mr. Bacon, Lettuce, and Tomato over in Garland. All right, to any of you on low power short time, you have anything for the net you'd like to bring up? Come with your call now. Okay, hearing none. Here we go. Let's go ahead and take general check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Milky Way, Solar System, Planet Earth, North America, United States, Texas, Dallas County, Mesquite.
November 5, Bravo, Bill, David, Mesquite.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
November X-Ray Romeo, John, Caddo Mills.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, AG 5 PM.
This is Kilo India 5, Zulu, Oscar, Echo, Tommy in Balch Springs.
All right, there's a pause. There were a couple of doubles, so I'm going to need some fills here. Let's see, I got KF5JHA, Chaz, Mr. Milky Way himself, all the way down to Mesquite and all that stuff in between. Got you. N5BB, Bill, you won the double out of Irving. And then I've got David, you did not in Mesquite. So if I can get your full call, please, Dave. David?
Kilo Golf 5, uniform, Kilo uniform.
Thank you. KG5UKU, David in Mesquite. Next is Tony, NT5TM in Dallas. You won the double. Next was November X-Ray Romeo. That would be John in Caddo Mills. John, could you give me a full call, please?
Roger that, Tom. It's Kilo Fox 5, November X-Ray Romeo.
3:45 p.m. Rich in Rockwell, I got you. And new one, Tommy, KI5Z0OB. I could get it right, Botch Springs. Welcome to our net. And Skynet, of course. Let me see. Let me take another round. Anybody who'd like to join us this evening, please come down with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo, Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima, James in Carrollton. K2OZ, George, Roy City, Texas.
All right, there's a pause in the action. I don't know if the repeater's hitting on all cylinders tonight, so I'm going to need a couple of fills. I got KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill in Farmers Branch, NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth, KG5 Whiskey, Victor Lima, James in Carrollton, and I got George in Roy City. George, you dropped out of the repeater for a sec. Could you give me your call maybe twice so I can get it, because you may drop out again. Please do, sir. All right, he may be spitting out low wattage, but George, I got you. I just don't have a call for you. Maybe you can try again in a little bit. Next one is Jane, you're with KG5ZBL. I've got you. You're Weatherford. I recognize the voice. I don't have a call right. I don't mind having problems this evening, but at any rate, I'll take additional check-ins before I move on to the Echolink, but anybody over here who'd like to join us and has not done so already, please come now with your call, your name, and where you're transmitting.
Kilo India 5, Papa Golf Mike, Travis, Garland.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima, Huey Richardson.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo Bravo 9, Cody, Alex, recheck.
Okay, I think that last station's the one I've been looking for. I'll come back to you in just a second. I'm going to check in these others, and that last breaking station, I really didn't make you out, but if you can increase power a little bit, that would be helpful. I'll be with you in just a second. KI5PGM, I got Travis in Garland. KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas. KF5CLL, Huey over in Richardson. KB9SOK, Sean of Fort Worth. And then finally, the last station. I'm going to turn you up a little bit. You're very light into the repeater, and you dropped a little bit. So if you can give me your call, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie, Delta, Cody, Dallas, low power.
You came through perfectly that time. Now, maybe Tom didn't write it down perfectly. K5, Mike, Charlie, Delta, is that correct? And then I locked because I was interpreting your call and then lost your name, and your signal was perfect this time. Go figure, Tom is imperfect, but I do have you in Dallas. Go ahead and give me your name, please, and correct your call.
No problem, Tom. K5 MCD, it's Cody in Dallas. Charlie Oscar, Delta Yankee.
Excellent. Thank you, Cody, and thanks for putting up with me this evening. Guess I'm just not running on all cylinders myself. Okay, let me move over to Echolink. There's a few people there, so I'll give them a chance to check in. If you're on Echolink and you've not checked in yet, and there is a couple, at least, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time.
Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
Five Kilo Tango X-Ray. Kelly, back home in Quinlan.
All right, let me go ahead and get everybody else in here. I got K5GDW, John, back up in Norman, Oklahoma. K5KDX, KTX, sorry about that. Kelly in Quinlan, welcome home. I saw your trips stuff over on Facebook. Looked like you had a fantastic time. And then I'm going to go ahead and put JJ in, Mr. Bashful, N5IMS. I know he's there and listening. Okay, I will open it to any mode, anywhere. If you've not checked in and like to do so, please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Zulu, Oscar, Andrew, and Orion.
Oh, what a wonderful call. I've got W5ZOO, and you were a little light into the repeater. I'm going to turn you up so I can hear you. Could I get your name and location, please?
Okay, I turned my power up a little bit. This is Whiskey 5 Zulu, Oscar, Andrew, and Arlington.
Fantastic, I heard you that time. W5ZOO, Andrew and Arlington, welcome to the net. Anyone else before we begin? All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We've got 27 check-ins on the first round. Not too shabby. Does anyone have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now.
November, Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, I knew you would have something, Tony, but I don't know what it is. Tell us what you got from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. You know, Skynet is an awesome net, but it's by no means the strangest net of the evening. That will be coming up at 10:30, plus or minus a few minutes. It's the Afterglow Movie Discussion Net. We're talking about The Wizard of Speed and Time, a 1988 weirdness. There's a reason Tom summarized this movie with a concrete poem. We'll be talking about it tonight on this repeater, and if you understand it, well, you should probably tell the director about that because he didn't either. But it sure is weird and it sure is fun to watch. The Wizard of Speed and Time from 1988 tonight on this repeater. Now, we do have some actual important and actionable stuff coming up. This coming weekend is the Dallas County Skywarn class at the Granville Performing Arts Center in downtown Garland. Go to weather.gov/Fort Worth for more details. In general, it starts at 9 a.m. It is an in-person training event to help you become a better Skywarn spotter. I hope to see you there. And 2 weeks from tonight, we do have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Lecture and Lab. We're building an aviation radio receiver. It's one of our more interesting projects. You can even use it with your satellite weather receiving antenna, or weather satellite receiving antenna from this summer. More details at w5fc.org. So, I hope you like special effects. I hope you enjoy being a Skywarn operator, and I hope you participate in the lecture and lab. More details at weather.gov/Fort Worth or w5fc.org. This is NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Does anyone need any fills or have any questions? Please come now.
KG5 UKU.
KG5 UKU. You can talk to Tony direct. He's NT5TM. Go ahead and ask away.
Hey, Tony, NT5TM. This is David. Questions about the Skywarn. Are there any requirements, check-ins, or anything?
No. Any human being, even if you're just listening to us on the internet and you're not a ham at all, if you exist and you have a pulse, you can absolutely go to the Skywarn training. To become a RACES operator, there are significant requirements, and you can look at those at dallasraces.org. You have to take some FEMA ICS classes online and contact your local city RACES radio officer. But to go to the training, no. You don't have to be a ham. If you are living and breathing, there are no zombies allowed. You can absolutely go to the Skywarn training on the 18th at 9 o'clock in the morning at the Granville Performing Arts Center in downtown Garland. NT5TM.
All right. Thank you, Tony. KG5 UKU.
Very good. Anyone else have any questions they want to ask? Please come in your call. All right, very good. Let's move on. Regular announcements. I'll go ahead and give to you. Most people know it, but I'll go through this quickly. Don't forget, there are several other nets, both on this repeater and on other repeaters. We have one called the AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Group. Has 3 nets available, actually, to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. We have the one coming out of Houston on Echolink. You can find it under groups and at AMSAT, A-M-S-A-T. There's a live audio link. That's at 8 p.m. Tuesday evening Central Time. You can also go to their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net talks about all things having to do with amateur radio satellites. Now, we have 2 nets local here in Dallas. Also, Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, if you want to check in person on that one, you can locally on this repeater, 146.88, with a TL of 110.9. That's hosted and run by Tom N5HYP. It's net controlled. Has some other folks who sometimes do it as well. If there's first Tuesday of the month, which is the DARC Club night, there is no AMSAT Net East, as it's called. There is an AMSAT Net West, also by Tom, on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. That's 147.140 megahertz. It also has a PL of 110.9 with a positive offset. Now, next up is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club hosted nets. We've got a bunch of these. On Mondays, we have alternating nets, a different net every Monday night at 7 o'clock. First week is Ham Fixin's net, talks about food and recipes. That's a lot of fun, by the way. Bring your best food and culinary experience to that net. Second week is MCOM 101. It's non-denominational. Means you don't have to be a member of any emergency communications group, though if you are, we may ask you a few questions. This is an opportunity for you to get involved and find out about emergency communications if you're new to it, or if you're old to it, you want to find some new served agencies to help out. That's the place to be. Third week is a second helping of Ham Fixin. Fourth week is GeekNet. Tony, who you heard earlier, NT5TM, he does that net. And it has everything, all things having to do with geekiness. So we go beyond just amateur radio and all the other things that go with being a geek. Fifth week, we just had a surprise net just this last month, which is essentially, if there is a fifth Monday, it's a surprise net. We told you what it was. It would be a surprise. Friday evenings at 8 p.m., we have Third City Net. This is Melissa, KF5GRH, usually net control. This is everything to do with CERT training and radio communications. You don't have to be a CERT member to go to that net. It's actually quite fun. You learn quite a bit about emergencies. So visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, that's at 8 o'clock every Friday. All are welcome. Saturdays, we have the Night of Nets. We have TechNet at 7 to 8. If you missed that one, then we take a break from 8 till 9, and then from 9 until 10:30 is Skynet, which is what you're listening to now. And then at 10:30 to 12, we have the Afterglow Movie Net. Daily, we have the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net from 6:30 until 7. You can check in on that net if you're interested in finding out about formalized communication and how to handle formal traffic, that is message traffic. That is the net you want to be a part of. You can keep up with all the DARC net events and activities by going to the club website, which I mentioned earlier, w5fc.org. All right, I did a very short thing on tonight's movie because, well, it's so bizarre I don't even know how to kind of lampoon it because it lampoons itself. So our movie, join us for the movie Beyond Description. Trust me about this, but when you see it, you'll likely never forget it. Just if you forget it, join us for The Wizard of Space and Time from 1989 at 10:30 p.m. You still have a chance to see it now. It's quite unusual. I can't describe it. You just have to trust me on that. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, where when you look through a telescope, that would be Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, you want to tell us about that from AE5ICX?
Why, thank you. I guess you referred to me as also Mr. Milky Way, too. Okay. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, February the 24th, 2023. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also will be held on Zoom. The featured speaker is John Kelly, and his topic will be about his time at NASA. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there'd be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, today is the second Saturday, so on the second Saturday, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Is there anyone at Cedar Hill that's also a ham radio operator that would like to report on what's happening there tonight? Come now with your call sign. I guess there isn't. There were clouds earlier, but the last time I looked out, it was at least partly clear. Anyway, You can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. That's all I've got for now. This is KF5JHA, back to Mr. Skynet. Tom, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. Does anybody have any questions or need any details on any of that? Please come and do call. Right next up is National Space Society events and activities. That would be Bill, N5BB. Bill, what do you have for us this evening?
Hello, Tom on the net. Yes, that would be me. This is N5BB, and my phone is ringing. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. I'm sorry. A cousin calling me back. Okay, I'm back. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director and member at large for the National Space Society North Texas chapter. This is a group of space enthusiasts. And our meetings are always on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. So our February meeting is tomorrow, February the 12th. We're going to get together at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving on Highway 183 in Beltline. Our speaker will be virtual via WebEx. It will be Dr. Tanya Rogers. She's an in situ Resource Utilization Test Director at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston. What is ISRU? This is figuring out how you can use materials that are present where you are. For instance, you land on the moon. Well, it'd be nice if you could use water on the moon so you didn't have to bring water with you. It would be nice if you could find some way to take that water and maybe electrolyze it into hydrogen and oxygen, which you can then use to fuel a spacecraft to take off from the moon. Similar things with Mars and other places. So she is part of a group at NASA that's investigating those kinds of things, using the resources where you are. Anyway, so she'll give our virtual presentation tomorrow. If you would like to be invited to the WebEx, then send me something before noon tomorrow. Don't wait till the last minute. Before noon tomorrow, send me an email at n5bb@arrl.net or space@byrom.net, space@byrom.net, and tell me that you want to listen to the WebEx tomorrow. Again, this is Dr. Tanya Rogers from NASA Johnson Spacecraft Center talking about using resources on other planets or other places that NASA's going. So that's what's going on tomorrow. Of course, this is right before the Super Bowl. But this presentation does not directly interfere with the Super Bowl. It's before it. The big event, which is occurring here later on in this year, will be the International Space Development Conference. Break. This is N5BB, and I am on Skynet. And the International Space Development Conference is a yearly big conference given by the National Space Society. People are there from all over the world, and it's about space development. So you find people that are developing rockets, but especially people that are developing craft, capsules and other things, and landing things for the moon and Mars. People that are developing space stations, like the Lunar Gateway, people that are developing space hotels, or other kinds of private space stations that will be around after the International Space Station is no more. So there's all kinds of plans going on right now for that, and some of them are already there attached to the ISS. So the people that are working on that will be there, as well as people that are working on other things for the future, such as how will we eat when we go to the moon or Mars? Will we grow food there? Will we take it with us from Earth? Or will we get the water? All that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of interesting people there and other kinds of things involving space. The keynote speaker at the 2022 International Space Development Conference, I was there in near Washington, D.C., was the guy that was the chief engineer for the helicopter that's on Mars. He was the main guy involving with design and of that helicopter. So he talked to us and got to eat dinner with him and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really neat, convention. It's not so huge that you can't talk to somebody. You'd be able to do a lot of discussions with interesting people. But it's big enough to have big names there, like, sometimes current or ex-directors of NASA and things of that nature, astronauts, et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, when is this International Space Development Conference in 2023? And where is it? It's May the 25th to 28th, right before Memorial Day weekend, right during it. It's at the Embassy Suites in Frisco. That's right up here north edge of the DFW Metroplex. You can learn more by going to isdc2023.nss.org, or just doing a web search for ISDC 2023. And you can find out more about the National Space Society by going to space.nss.org, and you can find out more about our local chapter here by going to ntx.nss.org. That's NTX for North Texas.nss.org. Or by going to, anyway, that's good enough. You can also look on Facebook by doing a search for National Space Society North Texas chapter. And you can also send me an email. So if you sign up early for the International Space Development Conference, there will be discounts. And if you're a member of National Space Society, there's big discounts. There's going to be some amateur radio stuff there too. We're trying to get a thread to talk about things like the ARIS, amateur radio on the International Space Station, and about amateur radio on future space stations, and do some satellite contacts outside. Lots of exciting things happening at the end of May. That's all I got. This is N5BB. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill. And does anybody have any questions or need fills on what Bill brought? Okie dokie. Let me go ahead and take any additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come down with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo. This is Chris in Southeast Dallas.
This is Alpha Golf 9er Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
Kilo Indigo 5 Zulu Kilo Lima, Brian, North Dallas.
picked up 3 more. A number of new people this evening. Let's see, I've got K0FER. That's Chris in Southeast Dallas. Welcome, Chris. AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas, one of our regulars. And then I got Brian, KI5ZKL. Brian in North Dallas, welcome. Glad to have you all aboard, especially the new folks, and always the regular, usual suspects who are checked in this evening. All right, so here we go, discussion topic of the evening. Now, this got kind of interesting tonight. You did not hear Brenda on. She's one of our regulars. She is sick. She came down with something really today, I think. I hope she's okay. She's gone back to bed, she says. I talked to her earlier this evening. And she was scheduled to do the net this evening, even though normally it's me. We had swapped positions because we had, we do more than one topic in the course of the net, so she ended up with doing just about everything for next week, so we swapped out, only to find out she got sick. So I had to come up with something quickly, and I did. I found on the internet the top questions about comets, so I needed it quick. So this is what I did. I hope you'll find it interesting. There's just a bunch of questions that came up. This is from one of the internet searches I did. So what are comets? Comets have been called dirty snowballs. They are small celestial objects made of ice, gas, dust, and a small amount of organic material that orbit our sun. There are about 1,000 known comets, and more are discovered each year. Here's an interesting question. What are the different parts of a comet? Well, every comet has a nucleus, which is a stable, porous central mass of ice, gas, and dust that is often between 1 to 10 kilometers or 0.6 to 6 miles in size. The ice is made of varying amounts of water, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and methane. The dust may contain hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, silica, and some metals. The nucleus may have traces of hydrocarbons. As comets approach our sun within 450 million kilometers or 280 million miles, they heat up and the ice begins to sublimate, change from a solid directly into a gas. There is no liquid, folks. The gas, or water vapor, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and traces of other substance and dust forms an atmosphere around the nucleus called a coma. Material from the coma gets swept from the tail, into the tail. As comets move close to the sun, they develop tails of dust and ionized gas. Comets have 2 main tails, a dust tail and a plasma tail. The dust tail appears whitish yellow because it's made up of tiny particles about the size of particles of smoke that reflect sunlight. Dust trails are typically between 600,000 to 6 million miles long. The plasma tail is often blue because it contains carbon monoxide ions. Solar ultraviolet light breaks down the gas molecules, causing them to glow. Plasma tails can stretch tens of millions of kilometers into space. Rarely they are as long as almost 100 million miles. Third tail of sodium has been observed on the comet Hale-Bopp, which, by the way, I got a picture of. There are 3. How interesting! I have a picture of comet Hale-Bopp right behind me on the desk, and I never noticed that before. I'm looking, and they're right. There are 3 tails. Uber cool. And I just put up, by the way, there is a video portion of this. If you go to w5fc.org, you'll find there is a picture of Hale-Bopp. I just put it on the screen. Comets are enveloped in a broad, thin, sparse hydrogen cloud that can extend for millions of kilometers. This envelope cannot be seen from Earth because its light is absorbed by our atmosphere, but it has been detected by spacecraft. How are comets named? Comets are named after the person who first reports their discovery. For example, Comet Halley is named after Edmund Halley, who determined that comets observed in 1531, 1607, and 1682 had essentially the same orbits and thus were a single comet. Based on his calculations, he correctly predicted the comet's return in 1758, but unfortunately he did not live to see Comet Halley. Sometimes more than one person reports a new comet at the same time. In that case, the names are combined, as in the cases of Comet Hale-Bopp or Comet Shoemaker-Levy. So how big are comets? Well, comet's nucleus is between 0.6 and 6 miles across. The tail, however, can stretch for tens of millions of miles. I thought I answered this, but that's okay. What are comets made of? Most of our information comes from studying the spectra of different comets. Scientists study the light reflected by different parts of the comet. Gases contain different elements. Each element, such as hydrogen, molecule, such as water, or ion, an electrically charged element or molecule, has a distinct pattern of emission or absorption that can be determined in the laboratory. This pattern is known as a spectrum. By matching patterns between laboratory measurements and comet observations, scientists can determine the composition of a comet. Every comet is made of the same basic ingredients, ice and dust. However, comets probably vary in how much of the ice is water ice and how much is ice made of other substances, such as methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide. Comets also vary in different types of trace elements, and hydrocarbons are present. Several space missions, such as the European Space Agency's Giotto mission, have explored comets and provided detailed imagery of comet surfaces. A few missions are intended to sample comets. After a successful rendezvous, Comet Wild 2, NASA's Stardust mission, will return comet dust and gas samples to Earth in January of 2006. It's already been here and gone. Boy, I didn't know this was such an old article. NASA's Deep Impact mission encountered Comet Temple in July of 2005 and released a projectile into the comet's surface to excavate a hole and expose a fresh surface on the nucleus. The spacecraft will collect data on comet emissions and will relay the data to scientists on Earth. While the data from these missions will be from only a few comets and might not be representative, the data will greatly improve our understanding of comets and composition. So what do orbital paths of comets look like? Based on observation of how comets move through the sky, scientists have determined comets travel around the sun in highly elliptical or oval-shaped orbits. The time it takes to make a complete orbit is called the comet's period. Comet periods typically range from a few years to millions of years. Where do comets come from? Comets are divided into short-period comets and long-period comets. Short-period comets, such as Comet Halley, revolve around our sun in orbits that take less than 200 years. Their orbital paths are close to the same plane of the orbit as Earth and other planets, and they orbit our sun in the same direction as the planets. Based on these orbital characteristics, short-period comets are believed to originate in the Kuiper Belt, a disc-shaped region extending beyond Neptune. The Kuiper Belt contains small icy planetary bodies, only a few of which have been imaged. These are the leftovers from the early solar system formation. Occasionally, the orbit of the Kuiper Belt object is disturbed by the interactions of giant planets in such a way that it will have a close encounter with Neptune and either be flung out of the solar system or pushed into an orbit within our solar system. Longer period comets, such as Comet Hale-Bopp or Comet, I used to know how to pronounce this, Hyakutake, take more than 200 years to orbit our sun. Their orbital path is random in terms of direction and plane of orbit. Based on calculations from their observed paths, long-period comets are believed to originate in the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud is a spherical envelope that may extend 30 trillion kilometers or 20 trillion miles beyond our sun. Oort cloud objects have never been imaged. And this is KE5ICX. What happens when comet approaches our sun? In cold far reaches of our solar system in the Kuiper Belt or Oort cloud, comets are essentially just small chunks of ice or dust. Comets are nearly invisible except when they get close to our sun. As a comet approaches our sun, it begins to heat up, and the ice begins to sublimate, change from a solid to a gas with no liquid stage. Some of the dust is left behind as ice sublimate. It forms a dark protective crust on the surface of the nucleus and slows the melting. In some places, the protective layer is thinner and jets of gas break through. The gas and dust form a cloud of the coma. Our sun emits a solar wind, a constant flow of gas and particles, mostly protons and electrons, that streams outward about 220 miles per second. Sunlight and solar winds sweep the dust and gas of the coma into trailing tails. Because sunlight and solar wind rays flow outward from our sun's surface, the tails always point away from the sun no matter what direction the comet is moving in its orbit. This means the tails can be in front of the comet as the comet moves away from the sun on its return to the outer part of its orbit. Two distinct tails develop, plasma and dust tail. The difference in shapes and angles of the tails are caused by the way the different particles are affected by our sun. Thinner, longer plasma tail forms a straight line extending from the comet. Particles in this ion tail are electrically charged and are pushed away from our sun by the solar wind. The shorter dust tail is curved slightly. The longer particles in the dust tail do not have an electric charge and are not affected by the solar wind. Instead, the dust particles shed from the comet are repelled by the force of sunlight and lag behind the comet in its movement around our sun. Comet tails get more and more impressive as the comet gets closer to our sun. As the comet approaches our sun, it gets hotter and material is released more rapidly, providing a larger tail. Scientists estimate that a comet loses between 0.1 and 1% of its mass each time it orbits our sun. What happens when Earth passes through the path of the comet? Meteor showers occur when Earth passes through the tail of dust and gas left by the comet along its elliptical orbit. The particles enter Earth's atmosphere and most burn up in a lively light show, meteor shower. Some meteor showers, such as the Perseids in August and the Leonids in November, occur annually when Earth's orbit takes it through the debris path left along the comet's orbit. Comet Halley's trails are responsible for Orion's meteor shower. For upcoming meteor showers and viewing suggestions, explore Stardate's listing of the year's meteor showers. I guess that's stardate.com or org. Why are scientists interested in comets? Well, scientists think that comets formed with our planets 4.5 billion years ago, so they contain important clues to the materials and processes in our early solar system. Scientists hope to learn more about comets with NASA's missions such as Stardust Deep Impact and European Space Station's Rosetta mission, all of those which have, I believe, already occurred. Okay, that's it. That was my quickie presentation I had to put together about 2 hours ago, and thanks to the internet for all of your help. Does anyone have any questions? And then I will direct it to somebody with an answer, because I probably don't know. But if you have a question, please come with your call now.
KI5ZOE.
KI5ZOE. Your question, please.
Sorry, it's not actually a question. I just wanted to add one other piece of trivia that you didn't mention. With the dust of comet, you could put a little bit on a sponge, and you can clean up your countertop or your bathtub or your tile. It's really, really good for that. This is KI5ZOE.
Well, thank you, Tommy. Well, that seems really interesting. Next time Oh, yeah, wait a minute. You're very funny. It took me a minute. As net control, I'm slower than the average bear. I get it. That sounds like something Chaz would say. You'll learn about him in a minute. All right, thank you. Excellent. Does anyone else have any questions that maybe Tom can answer?
G5BZW.
KFIBZW, that would be be, I believe, ZW, that would be Jay near Weatherford. I believe that's who it is. Jay, go ahead.
We had to give Echolink a second there. So, I don't know if I can fit this into a really quick to answer question, but as far as modeling the particles, whatever that are like, okay, so the plasma stuff, it launches stuff from the comet surface, and it essentially achieves escape velocity for the comet. But I was just wondering, what was the velocity of those particles relative to us when the Earth passes through the comet's cloud? I reckon a lot of the speed with the meteor showers is just the Earth going through its orbit, and then and all of that. But I can't imagine that those particles would be motionless or anything. They're just, I don't know how to phrase this question in an easy to answer way. I was just wondering about that, if you happen to come across anything related to that. This is KG5BZW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Well, I Googled this, speed of meteorites, and this is what it says. Even the smallest meteors are visible from many kilometers away because how fast they travel and how brightly they shine. With Astronomy, meteors travel at speeds of 44 miles per second. Faster and larger the meteors, the brighter and longer it may glow. Does anyone here have any other comments about the speed of meteorites from Comet Tails? Please come now with your call.
KF5JHA.
I should have figured the professional astronomer might know. Chaz, KF5JHA, please tell us.
Yes, the reason why I'm a professional is I get paid. Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Yeah, you had a couple of different questions in there, Jay. I think one was the escape velocity of the particles coming off the comet. It doesn't need to be but just a tiny bit because it's a small little body, so it's very minimal to get away from the gravity of the comet. So the speed of the particles running into the Earth's atmosphere are really fast, sometimes 100,000 miles an hour. That's pretty interesting. And they run into the Earth's atmosphere so hard, so fast, that they burn up. It's sort of like you rubbing your hands together. They get warm, but if you could rub your hands faster and faster, they catch on fire. I don't want you to do that, but that's what is happening with the particles in our Earth's upper atmosphere. Most of the debris is burned up, and some of the dust that's sitting on your radio right now is comet dust from meteorites. Particles that were left over from comets. Just a bit of trivia. KF5JHA, back to our net control.
Well, thank you, Chaz. And let's see, we can use Comet to clean up comet material. Interesting. Okay, well, let's see. What we got going on here? Oh, Robert, K4WRS. I think you're listening in. I'm going to put you down because you're still there. And he is from Bryson City, North Carolina. Robert, you want to check in? I put you down, but if you'd like to say a couple words, just say hello. Now's your opportunity from KE5ICX. Over and echoing. Okay, that's okay. I bet you still listening. But... All right, let's see here now. Let's just go to the next section. That would be Chaz again. Hey, Chaz, you're back on What's Up. So, KF5JHA, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. Slide Master, that was slide number 1. You can go to slide number 2, but while I'm at it, I want to say if you did not listen to TechNet at 7 o'clock, we talked about moons, we talked about the sun losing mass. There were all sorts of astronomical things going on there, so I'm not going to talk about those. I'll talk about some other things. So slide number 2. The full moon occurred on February the 5th, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On February 13th is the third quarter phase of the moon. On February the 19th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 358,267 kilometers. February the 20th is new moon. On February 27th is when the first quarter moon occurs. And on March the 3rd, the moon will be at apogee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,889 kilometers. The next is slide number 3, please. Tom, I am so glad you talked about comets because this is slide about Comet C2022 E3ZTF. It's still within range of binoculars from very dark skies. It was discovered back in March of 2022 by the Zwicky Transient Facility. Currently, it is an estimated magnitude of 7.0. The video portion of Skynet has an image taken just a few hours ago, and there's also a finder chart there as well. Tonight, right now, the comet is located about 1 degree southeast of Mars. Now, I've been unable to see the comet from inside the city using binoculars, but I have a friend, Dennis Harwell, that observed the comet a week ago from a very dark sky site with binoculars. Now, if you search Comet 2022 E3, then you should find lots more information about it. I like spaceweather.com, and it tells you all sorts of things. It tells you about that piece of the sun that went away, too. Spaceweather.com. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. I usually don't talk about the outer members of our solar system, but this morning at February the 11th, the planet Mercury was only about 2 degrees away from the planet Pluto in the very low early morning southeastern sky. Only the largest amateur telescopes would have been able to see Pluto. Slide Master, slide number 5. If you've never seen the planet Neptune through a telescope, then you could try it on February the 14th, Valentine's Day. The planet Venus and Neptune will only be about 1/2 of a degree apart in this very close conjunction in the western evening sky. Now, once again, a telescope will be needed to see the planet Neptune. Slide Master, slide number 6. On February the 18th, the moon will be around 6 degrees away from the planet Mercury in the very low southeastern morning sky. Binoculars may be needed to see both of them in the strong twilight. Slide number 7, please. So last month, I talked about viewing the winter circle. Sirius is part of the winter circle, and this is the brightest star in the sky other than the sun. Tonight, I want to talk about observing in the evening sky tonight and finding the second brightest star in the sky, Canopus. Canopus is not easy to find for us in North Texas because it never gets more than 4.5 degrees high in the sky. And that is happening right now. at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time right now, tonight, you can look very low in the southern sky and see it. Canopus is just south of Sirius. It is in the constellation of Carina. Carina is the constellation of the hull of a ship. So I challenge you, see if you can find it. If not tonight, sometime soon. Slide Masters, slide number 8. Canopus is an aging bright giant of spectral type A9 or F0, so it is essentially white when seen with the naked eye. Canopus is undergoing core helium burning and is currently in the so-called blue loop phase of its evolution, having already passed through the red giant branch after exhausting the hydrogen in its core. Canopus has 8 times the mass of our sun and has expanded to 71 times the sun's radius. That means Canopus is about 350,000 times the volume of our star, the sun. Canopus is radiating at over 10,000 times the luminosity of our sun from its enlarged photosphere with an effective temperature of about 7,000 degrees Kelvin. Canopus is an X-ray source, which is likely being emitted from its corona, which is the top part of its atmosphere. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. All right, so did you know that there's a Super Bowl game that's being played in Arizona tomorrow? The real Super Bowl is the Big Dipper in the northeastern sky, and the Big Dipper is an asterism. An asterism is not a constellation of stars, but rather a group of stars that looks like something that is usually a part of a constellation. For me, the Big Dipper looks like a cooking pan with a long handle. In the evening sky, the Big Dipper is oriented with his bowl rising above its handle. It does look funny to me with the Big Dipper standing on its handle. The Big Dipper is part of the constellation of Ursa Major, the Big Bear. The mascot, where I work, the Brookhaven campus of Dallas College, is a bear. So I just had to mention that. Go Bears! Maybe in the future episode of Was Up, I can talk about why the bear has such a long tail. But right now, that is a tale too long to tell tonight. Tom, you can cue the laugh track if you want to right now. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 10. We talked about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meetings and observing sessions on Saturday night, so we're going to skip from slide 10 to slide 11. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
Chaz, this is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa, Lima, Lima, Huey. Generally, per day, how many tons of non-Earth-made space debris falls to the planet Earth? And over the years, will it aggregate to the point that it'll change the gravitational pull of the planet itself? KF5 PLL, back to Chad.
W5GUS, another question.
Oh, PLL, that's a great question. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but you do. Huey, do you have that number off the top of your head? How many tons per day we get? Go ahead.
I am sorry, the dust on my radio, part of it comes from outer space, but short of a big chunk falling on my head and letting me know how big it is, I don't have that figure off the top of my head. Pun intended. Back to Nat.
Thank you. I'll have to look that up, but I believe it or not, it's several tons every day. Now, over a long period of time, that could amount to a little bit of stuff, yes. Gus, come now with your question. Get me out of this.
Well, thank you, Chaz, W5GUS here. Well, speaking of meteors and things falling to Earth, it seemed like I read before where all the gold in on Earth is not native to Earth. All the gold came from meteors and comets. I guess meteors striking Earth. Is that true? W5GUS.
Well, it's better than that. We think at the beginning there was only hydrogen and helium primarily at the beginning of the universe, and over a period of time, some stars produced some heavier elements. Some of it was produced in their atmospheres, in their chromospheres and photospheres and coronas probably. And when supernova explosions happen, that material got redistributed. So, yeah, all the material, probably the stuff that we see here on the Earth, primarily came from stars. So, yeah, it's better than that. Meteorites, sure, that's part of the debris that the whole solar system formed out of. So, yeah, you could say some of it has come from meteorites, but some of it was just the debris that formed our whole solar system. I hope that answered your question, Gus. Come now if you have any more to say about that.
So the gold naturally formed on or in Earth as Earth was forming, as Earth was coalescing, coming together. Is that right?
Actually, the gold was not formed on or in the Earth. It was part of the debris that our solar system is made out of as a result of other formations in other star systems. Stars themselves have produced the heavier elements, heavier than iron. So isn't that interesting? In fact, stars have formed all the heavy elements except for hydrogen and helium for the most part.
I see. So it didn't fall to Earth. It just kind of it formed as Earth was forming. Then all these elements from the stars, everything was coming together, and gold happened to be one of them here. That's what I'm picturing?
Yes, it was already in existence when the Earth was formed. The form did not produce it. Yeah, so that's a good question there, Gus. I really appreciate that. So I think I better move on. Slide Master, slide number 12 says the moon wanes. So do these words for the segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next time. Actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep on looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control, KE5ICX. Tom, it's yours.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Recheck.
All right, thank you, Chaz. And Bill, go ahead.
Yes, from a Scientific American article in April of 2021, less than 2 years ago, a study in Antarctica recently determined that after looking at the amount of dust they found on the snow and ice in Antarctica, that the best judgment is that around 5,200 metric tons of micrometeorites fall to Earth every year. So 5,200 metric tons. So, and very, very few larger things. Nearly everything that falls is this super small stuff. N5BB.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Well, we learned all sorts of things tonight about comets. All right. Let me see here. Let's move on. We have space exploration and space history, and that would be Miss Kelly, who's back from her odyssey. So, K5KTX, what do you have for us this evening, and welcome home.
Tom, this is K5KTX, and I apologize. I was in Las Vegas for a work event, and the casinos are just smoke filled, and so my voice is a little bit out of sorts today. So, anyway, when NASA's Curiosity rover arrived at the sulfate-bearing unit last fall, scientists thought they'd seen the last evidence that lakes once covered this region of Mars. That's because the rock layers layers here formed in drier settings than regions explored earlier in the mission. The area's salty minerals are thought to have been left behind when water was drying to a trickle. So Curiosity's team was surprised to discover the mission's clearest evidence yet of ancient water ripples that formed within lakes. Billions of years ago, waves on the surface of a shallow lake stirred up sediment at the lake bottom over time, creating rippled textures left in the rock. In 2014, the rover has been ascending the foothills of Mount Sharp, a 3-mile-tall mountain that was once laced with lakes and streams that would have provided a rich environment for microbial life, if any ever formed on the red planet. Mount Sharp is made up of layers, with the oldest at the bottom of the mountain and the youngest at the top. As the rover it progresses along a Martian timeline, allowing scientists to study how Mars evolved from a planet that was more Earth-like in its ancient past, with a warmer climate and plentiful water, to the freezing desert it is today. Climbed nearly half a mile above the mountain's base, Curiosity has found these rippled rock textures preserved in what's nicknamed the marker band, a thin layer of dark rock that stands out from the rest of Mount Sharp. This rock layer is so hard that Curiosity hasn't been able to drill a sample from it despite several attempts. It's not the first time Mars has been unwilling to share a sample. Lower down the mountain on Vera Rubin Ridge, Curiosity had to try 3 times before finding a spot soft enough to drill. Scientists will be looking for softer rock in the week ahead. But even if they never get a sample from this unusual strip of rock, there are other sites they're eager to explore. Ahead of the marker band, scientists can see another clue to the history of Mars's ancient water in a valley named Geddes Vallis. Wind carved the valley, but a channel running through it that starts higher up on Mount Sharp is thought to have been eroded by a small river. Scientists suspect wet landslides also occurred here, sending car-sized boulders and debris to the bottom of the valley. Because the resulting debris pile sits on top of all the other layers in the valley, it's clearly one of the youngest features on Mount Sharp. Curiosity got a glimpse of this debris at Geddes Vallis Ridge last year, but only could survey it from a distance. The rover team hopes to have another chance to view it later this year. More clue within the marker band that has fascinated the team is an unusual rock texture likely caused by some sort of regular cycle in the weather or climate, such as dust storms. Not far from the rippled textures are rocks made of layers that are regular in their spacing and thickness. This kind of rhythmic pattern in rock layers on Earth often stems from atmospheric events happening at periodic intervals. It's possible the rhythmic patterns in these Martian rocks resulted from similar events, hinting at changes in the red planet's ancient climate. Now, in space history for this past week, starting with February the 6th, 1995, the shuttle Discovery approached the Russian space station Mir and completed a fly-around, thus marking the first shuttle rendezvous with Mir as part of the Shuttle Mir program. The mission, STS-63, was the first of the year, and on board was Russian cosmonaut Vladimir Titov. He was the second cosmonaut to fly aboard a U.S. space shuttle as part of the U.S.-Russian agreement on spaceflight cooperation. After the closest point of approach, Discovery Commander James Weatherby said, "As we are bringing our spaceships closer together, we are bringing our nations closer together. The next time we approach, we will shake your hand, and together we will lead our world into the next millennium." February the 7th, 1984, astronaut Bruce McCandless performed the first non-tethered spacewalk. This happened during Space Shuttle mission STS-41B, and Bruce used the Man Maneuvering Unit, or MMU, a sort of jet propulsion backpack. Bruce was not only the first person to use MMU, but was intimately involved in the design and development with Ed Whitsitt from NASA and Bill Ballendonk from the Martin Marietta Corporation. McCandless, Whitsitt, and Ballendonk were awarded the Collier Trophy in 1984 for the development of the MMU. Bruce passed away in late December 2017 and was buried at his alma mater, the U.S. Naval Academy, on January the 16th, 2018. And by the way, if you're on Facebook, his son, Bruce McCandless III, is very active in the popular group called Space Hipsters, and he provides a lot of great information there. So if you're out there on that group, be looking for his posts because they're pretty interesting. On February the 7th, back in 1999, NASA's Stardust mission launched. The primary goal of the mission was to collect samples from the comet Wild 2 and return them to Earth. The team had expected the samples to contain materials from the formation of the early solar system preserved in ice for billions of years. Indeed, researchers found what they expected, but was a surprise. Comet Wild 2 had formed under extremely hot conditions. It turns out that comets are not only made up of the ice from the outer solar system, but also materials formed near the sun in an environment hot enough to evaporate bricks. February the 8th, 1974, Skylab 4 crew returned from the third and final mission to the first U.S. space station. Skylab 4 was launched on November 16, 1973, with command and service modules CSM-118. The three-person crew, Gerald P. Carr, William R. Pogue, and Edward G. Gibson, spent 84 days on orbit. The mission included the observation of the comet Kohoutek, among numerous experiments. The crew completed 1,214 Earth orbits and 4 extravehicular activities totaling 22 hours, 13 minutes. CSM-118 was transferred from NASA to the Smithsonian in 1975. Also on February the 8th, 1992, the Ulysses probe arrived at Jupiter to perform a swing-by maneuver in order to establish an orbit around the Sun. The Ulysses mission was designed to study the Sun from its poles, a vantage point not often accessed for 5 years. Exceeding all expectations, the Ulysses collected invaluable data on the heliosphere for 20 years, allowing scientists to map previously inaccessible parts of the heliosphere. Though not its primary objective, the Jupiter flyby led to significant discoveries, especially about the magnetic field of the largest planet in our solar system. And then also on February the 8th, back in 2013, the Curiosity rover drilled into a portion of Martian bedrock, collecting the first sample ever obtained from the interior of another planet. This particular rock, named John Klein in memory of a Mars Science Laboratory deputy project manager, produced evidence that conditions on Mars were favorable for microbial life. Finally, we have several astronaut birthdays that we're celebrating this past week. Starting February the 5th, 1947, Mary Cleave. She was on Space Shuttle missions STS-61B and STS-30. Also on February the 5th, 1976, Andrew Morgan. He was part of Expedition 60, 61, and 62. February the 5th, 1984, Johnny Kim. He has not been on any missions, but he is currently on the short list for one of the upcoming Artemis missions. Celebrating a birthday on February the 7th, 1932, Al Worden, who was part of Apollo 15, and February the 7th, 1963, Heidi Marie Stephanician Piper, part of Space Shuttle missions STS-115 and 126. February the 9th, 1960, one of my favorite astronauts, Peggy Whitson. She was part of Space Shuttle missions STS-111 and 113 as part of Expedition 5. She was also on Space Station mission Expedition 16 and Expeditions 50, 51, and 52. Astronaut celebrating a birthday yesterday, February the 10th, 1968, Garrett Reisman. Space Shuttle mission STS-123-124 as part of Expeditions 16 and 17, and Space Shuttle mission STS-132. And then today, February the 11th, 1960, Richard Mastracchio, Space Shuttle missions STS-106, 118, 131, and Expeditions 38, 39. And that's all I've got this evening. Back to you, Tom. This is K5 KTX.
And thank you, Miss Kelly. And this is KE5ICX. Okay, well, we're here. Let's see. Everything after Chaz is me. So, Chaz, and I mean that all the way to midnight. So, Chaz, if you want to give us the final thing tonight with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, you're welcome to do so since I control the horizontal and vertical for the rest of the evening. So please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Oh, you must be the guide to the Afterglow movie, too. Okay, all right. What a deal. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week from almost its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Orion the Hunter. Slide master, that would be Tom. I'm still on slide number 13. Orion is the mighty hunter of ancient Greek mythology. There are various stories connected with him. The best known is probably the one story about how he boasted how good a hunter he was, and that he had dominion over all living creatures. Hera, also known as Juno, and Roman versions of the story, sent a deadly scorpion to punish him for his arrogant pride, and the scorpion's sting killed him. However, he was honored with a place in the heavens where you can see him on a clear, crisp winter night like tonight. The scorpion is also honored and placed exactly opposite Orion in the sky as the constellation Scorpius. With Orion rising as Scorpius sets, and vice versa, the two will never fight again. Slide master, slide number 14. So instead of the usual 6 jokes, I'm only going to do 2 tonight. That's the slide number 14. Orion's belt is a big waste of space. W-A-I-S-T. It only has a rating of 3 stars. If you didn't know, Orion's belt has 3 stars in it. What did Orion receive after losing a bullfighting competition? He got a Constellation Prize. Okay, slide master, slide number 14, please. Betelgeuse, some people call it Beetlejuice, is from the Arabic meaning, I don't know if I believe this, but it means the armpit of the central one, or armpit of the mighty one, or of the giant. I don't know if I believe that. Betelgeuse is a magnitude 0.7 red supergiant star with spectral class M2. Is believed to be about 520 light years away. It's so large that if it were our sun, it would swallow up the entire orbits of Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, and may reach almost out to Jupiter. It's one of the largest stars known and may be the largest naked-eye star. It is so large that even its distance can be perceived as you can see, at its distance, you can even see its disk, not just as a point of light, but a disk. Because of this, star spots have been detected on Betelgeuse. It is interesting that Orion's mortal enemy, Scorpius, has a similar star, Antares, and it too is a red supergiant, and it's believed to only be slightly smaller than Betelgeuse. Oh no, John, Deneb's not even close. He was asking him on Echolink. He thought Deneb was bigger. Nope, not by any means. Betelgeuse and Antares are much bigger. Betelgeuse is an irregular variable star with a period of about 5.7 years. Now, we have had an interesting thing that happened a couple of years ago. It had a dimming that was unpredicted to be as low as it was. Now, at a task meeting on February 26, 2021, we had a featured speaker, Dr. Dupree.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Due to a dust
Afterglow
cloud
Movie Net.
that is now back to its regular or irregular brightness. Interesting. Slide Master, slide number 16. One more star, Rigel. We know that from Star Trek, don't we? That's on the left foot of the giant, on the right side facing us, and it's a magnitude 0.14. It's a very bright star. It has a small bluish companion star that's 6.7 magnitude. Down to slide number 17, Slide Master. M42 has much been written and said about M42. It's the Great Orion Nebula. It's one of the finest showpiece objects in all of the sky. It was the first deep sky object that I ever tried to photograph. Even though M42 is a bright emission nebula, it's in the Dark Nebula Observing Club because it has an intervening portion of Dark Nebula in the northeastern portion of M42 called the Fish's Mouth. I've seen the structure referred to as the Dark Bay. Just beyond the deepest part of the Dark Bay lies our next object, the Trapezium star group. Slide number 18, please. The Trapezium is also known as Theta 1 Orionis, is a multiple star system at the heart of the Great Orion Nebula. It's an ionizing ultraviolet radiation of these stars that causes the gas in the nebula to glow through fluorescence, just like a fluorescent tube does. The four stars' brightness in the trapezium are fairly easy to see, and just about any decent quality telescope should be able to spot them. The four brightest stars are referred to as letters A, B, C, and D. Slide Master, slide number 20. There are a few more astronomical objects in the constellation of Orion, actually quite a few more. I've skipped several interesting stars and objects like the Horsehead Nebula, the Flame Nebula, the Running Man Nebula, and much more. But at the same time, we have time limits here on Skynet. So I've given you just a sampling of those objects. The Astronomical League has, last count, 75 different observing programs. Most have about 100 objects. So if you observe 10 objects in a month from an observing program, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 21, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellations of the Week, Orion the Hunter. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. Also, at times, use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time, I'll take a look at Lepus, the hare. Or is it Lepus? No, I think it's Lepus, the hare. KF5, JHA 73 to everyone. Back to our net control, Mr. Skynet, KE5 ICX.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I needed a rest. You provided it because we've got another 90 minutes to go this evening with the Afterglow Movie Net. All right. Let's see here. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and take a final round of check-in. If you'd like to join us this evening and get your name on the books, and your call for that matter, please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. This is last call.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, cruise in Arlington.
we have KI-5KWG cruise in Arlington. He's getting ready for the next net. So, this will be there. Okay, well, let's close it up because we do have another net. Tonight we had 32 check-ins tonight, not too shabby, including myself. I want to thank you all for checking in. We hope you join us here next week every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration on this net. The sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations. Send your email to nets@w5fc.org if you're interested. You can also follow topics, discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:34 local time. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And for everybody else who's going to check in this evening for the next, for the Afterglow Movie Net, we're going to take about 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Wizard of Speed and Time. It's a very unusual movie. That's in 5 minutes. We'll see you then. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now. that's about right. That's in about 5 minutes. So let me tell you what the movie is this week. And actually, really, we're going to talk about movies, a movie within a movie, which was the original. I'll explain that as it's described here on Wikipedia. The Wizard of Speed and Time is a 1988 low-budget feature film written, directed, and starring animator Mike Jitloff, as well as the 1979 16mm short film, also by Jitloff. In 1979, there was an original short film. A young man in a green wizard costume runs throughout America at super speed, much like the superhero The Flash. Along the way, he gives a hitchhiking woman a swift lift to another city and gives golden stars to other women who want to trip themselves. He then slips on a banana peel and comically crashes into a film stage, which he then brings to life in magical ways. Jitloff's special effects technician, he produced all the special effects in the film himself, many through stop motion animation. This short film originally was shown as a segment of the episode of The Wonderful World of Disney. The episode was called Major Effects and was aired to coincide with the release of Disney's The Black Hole in 1979. The film segment that began to be shown at science fiction conventions around the country, gaining popularity, prompting Jitloff to eventually create a semi-fictionalized account in the form of a feature film of how this short film came to be. Now, on to the feature film that we all watched, or some of us did. Years later, Jitloff was able to remake the short, as well as incorporate portions of some of his other short films, such as Time Tripper and Animato, into a feature-length 35mm film. The feature version recounts the exploits of the special effects wizard, played by Jitloff, trying to fulfill his dream of making a full-length movie. Tricks of the movie magic are exposed, but so are the tribulations of the independent movie maker working around the heavily unionized Hollywood film industry. Here's some lines. This is Straker. There are your film cams, but you can't move them. Why? Are they stuck to the floor? No, to the system. Many scenes in the movie turned out to be only too prophetic, according to Jitloff. In the film, a director, Lucky Stryker, yeah, cute name, isn't it? Played by Steve Brody, and a producer, Harvey Bookman, Kyle Kane, bet over whether Jitloff can actually complete a major effects assignment, and Bookman does everything in his power to thwart Jitloff. Richard Kay produced the film and starred as one of the main characters. Harvey Bookman, also the producer. Richard Kay's daughter, Lori Kay, at the age of 16, was the production secretary of Wizard of Speed and Time and performed in the film as a voiceover artist and hand model. The feature film is also filled with subliminal messages, many hidden in single frames during the Wizard to Run sequence, which was remade and expanded from the original short film, or hidden in electrical sparks generated by various happenings in the film. I didn't know that. We'll have to go back and look, I guess. The feature film was filmed in 1983 to 86, released in theaters in 89, though it never widely distributed, and was later released on VHS and Laserdisc. Although there is no official DVD release yet, Jitloff's fans have, with Jitloff's knowledge and at least tacit approval, created a DVD image file and made it available for free on peer-to-peer networks until such time as an official release is realized. All right, let me see here if I can pick anything else out of here. Well, this is kind of interesting. I'll put this in just to say what it has. It says cameos in the film include science fiction and film industry personalities: Forrest Ackerman, Angelique Pettyjohn, Ward Kimball, Will Ryan, and a pre-Miami Vice Philip Michael Thomas, as well as composer John Massari. The only look-alike used in the film was Woody Allen impersonator, who appears in 2 scenes when Mike is being chased by the Keystone Cops through the studio lot. All right, well, No, with that, I could read through this, but I don't think so. These are like punch-out single-liners here that don't really add up. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and take check-ins. I will take your call sign, your name, and whether you saw The Wizard of Speed and Time from 1989. If you didn't, that's okay too. This is going to be talking about special effects anyway. It could be kind of interesting. A very weird film, which we will ask if you think you want to see it. All right, I'll take check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see The Wizard of Speed and Time?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I did see it, and I'm kind of upset that I cooked a real dinner and didn't make popcorn instead. Popcorn would have been better.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu, J delivered. Yeah, I saw the film.
Kilo 0, Foxtrot, Echo Romeo, Chris in Southeast Dallas, and yes, I watched the film.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato. Bill in Garland, I did see the movie, but I'm going to listen because I was a little bit lost on it. So I'm just going to listen tonight. W5BLT.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot. This is Virginia in Fort Worth, and I did see the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo. This is Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see the movie, but I'm not part of the Reviewers Guild.
Okay, we got most of the usual suspects. Let me go ahead and go down the list. I got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw it. KG5BZW, J near Weatherford. Yep, he saw it. K0FER. Chris in Southeast Dallas. Yes, he saw it. W5BLT, Bill in Garland. Yes, he saw it, but he's in listen-only mode tonight. Oh, shame, Bill. NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yeah. She saw it. KB9SOK. Sean, also in Fort Worth. Wave at Virginia. She's down the street. Yes, he saw it as well. Anyone else want to join us? Is tonight's Afterglow Movie Net, and the movie being The Wizard of Speed and Time from 1989.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington. Yes, I saw it.
Got one more, KI5KWG, Cruise in Arlington. Yes, he saw it. All right, this is the fire drill. Everybody here knows what it is. Essentially, we're going to go down 3 rounds, I believe. First round is talking about the plot. Did you like it? Did you understand it? Probably is a good one. Number 2, characterization. What you think about that? And number 3, the special effects, of which this movie has tons and tons of. We'll talk about that. Depending on time, we may combine, but I think we got plenty to talk about. So I'm just going to go down the list in normal order. So we'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think about the plot to The Wizard of Speed and Time?
Well, again, I have to stress I'm sad. I'm not drunk, and I had a nutritious, filling dinner. That was 2 wrong choices for this movie. I I did watch it all the way through to the end. I did not flag or fail. I watched it in the hills. I watched it in the beaches. I watched it in the landing grounds. I watched it in the hills. As I was warned at the very end, this is the kind of movie I would have made if I didn't have anything better to do. I honestly had a blast watching this because it was a movie that just didn't really have a plot. There was sort of a pretext, but really it was about, look at all the fun things that you can do when you're making a movie. Oh, let's have a crowd scene. Hey, look, here's the animals. Here's a couple of little funny buddy cop scenes. Here's some, rear projection. Well, it was probably front projection stuff with somebody riding around in a suitcase. Just look at all the fun toys you can play with if you're a filmmaker. Isn't that great? And it did poke fun at the rigidity of union staffing rules and the, cynicism of movie-producing executives who just nowadays only want to make one superhero or comic book movie after another and never do anything new. Oh, wait, that was ahead of its time, wasn't it? Okay, so points for that. Really, it was just so fun because, I wanted to play with all those toys too. Plot schmott. I want to ride on the suitcase. NT5TM.
Oh, thank you, Tony. All right. That's probably the most unabashed, unbiased, and most straightforward review you've ever done. Let's see. KG5BZWJ, what did you think about the plot for The Wizards of Speed and Time from KE5ITX?
KG5BZW. I'm not sure I can really add to what Tony said because, plot. It's not the central aspect of the story, really. There's a basic plot to the whole thing, and it's about having fun with the filming and the toys and all the stuff, and it is interesting that they chose to make the video effects or the movie effects guy actually be somewhat I want to call it supernatural, but that doesn't quite seem to be the right term. It's just there's a weird kind of circularity. I'm making up words now. It's kind of a film about making a character which is the character that makes the film, which is kind of got a little circular reference there going there, but you don't think too much about that, even though that you can, because that's kind of cool if you like think about meta stuff and all of that jazz. But because I don't know that 100% consistent in that. Role of awesome definitely works is one of the driving points of this film, which is it really is kind of interesting that it follows the plot of the original plot. Making that film, that if there's anything that is plot-wise to it, I mean, granted, it's a fictional thing, so they, you figure they'd probably actually reorder things, and would it really be filmed for this film as it was for the original film? I kind of have my doubts for the totality of that, but for and also to have I'm sure some were found loopholes for and whatnot, and it was just made in this film more explicit and kind of joking manner. But anyway, I'm actually talking a lot about that, and there's other people here. So no, it was good fun. I actually had for once I had to watch a film. Stop the film, not because the film was just annoying me, but I felt like this thing was just kept on going, and I just needed to slow down. So I had like a 5-minute or so break in the middle, so I could appreciate what I've seen. And so plot-wise, it's not much to think about. There's a lot to think about in the film. That's all I got right now. KQ5BTW, back to that.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is Chris, K0FER. Chris, what'd you think about the plot for The Wizard of Speed and Time from KE5ICX?
Well, The Wizard of Speed and Time gave me ADD. So, it's frenetic. It's kind of a trip to watch. It reminded me of the kind of insanity that, if you remember Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge, just low budget and with less of a story. A lot of the gags are pretty clever, and I know a big through line in the movie is poking fun at union work, but I'd like to point out that if they had a union contract, they essentially doing it on spec, so that the big wigs with the bet were making the entire profits. Anyway, that's all I got. K0FER, back to that.
All right, thank you, Chris. Next is, I'm going to skip Bill. He said, no, I don't want to talk about it, but he did see the movie. NV5F, Virginia, what did you think of The Wizard of Space and Time?
KE5ICX, this is NV5F. Well, I did get in a little late, and so when I got into it about 9 minutes in, I was a little perplexed, because this guy seems to have these supernatural powers, and no one seems to be too concerned about that. I think they just seem to so what I did was while you were introducing it and the first couple people were talking, I was watching the very beginning of the movie to try to get my head around, because later we were all watching online last night, and I asked, so where did this guy's powers come from? And that was just a given. That was one of those suspension of disbelief things. Tom, I think you just said, oh, there's no explanation. He just sort of has these, abilities. And so when I just watched the beginning of the movie again, or for the first time really for me, I kind of gather that the idea here is that he is, there's this studio that's looking for a great idea for a movie, and they're going through a bunch of hackneyed, trite things that that every movie has, and they finally, you know, this guy goes, well, I know a guy who's, you know, really talented, and he's the guy we need to call, and they, you know, the phone rings at his house, and there he is, you know, in his whimsical house, and we were joking last night about how he was, you know, a wannabe Pee Wee Herman, but I kind of wonder if Pee Wee Herman was, you know, Pee Wee's Playhouse was ripped off from this guy, because, you know, he's an animator. He's got 100-foot boxes of 100-foot cans of Kodak 7252 film everywhere. You know, it's obvious that the idea is that he does want to make a statement in his film about film and the film industry. And but I guess I'm kind of dwelling on his sort of whimsical supernatural abilities and all his gadgets and things, because I figured from watching the beginning of the movie that's just a symbol for genuine, you know, just genuine creativity, like just genuineness of character, and that is like a supernatural gift. And so I won't go into that until we get more into characters, but so I gather the plot is basically that, you know, they call this guy on a whim, and he gets excited and he wants to make a movie, and then he actually goes to see them. And I really identify with this guy because I moved out to LA when I got my film degree, and I was out there for about a year, and I struggled with a lot of the issues that he talks about, and or that's kind of talked about in the movie about unions and guilds and all the catch-22s in entertainment, and how they get you all worked up and excited about how they love your idea and they love you and they think, you know, you're great, and they're going to make a great movie out of what your idea is, and then they either want to control everything, or you're not, you know, they you know, they just tell you everything you want to hear, and then the next day something has come along to make them change their mind or make it too hard. And that's kind of what the plot of this was. It was not a very structured plot, but it was kind of a lampoon of filmmaking, and some of us filmmakers in the crowd watching it online last night had a good time with all of the really, you know, obvious references, intertextual film industry references, and I had a good time watching it. It brought back some good memories, and it was kind of inspiring. It was wacky and a little silly, and you know, and it's about how this guy perseveres, and you know, at the 11th hour he thinks it's all over, and then he just decides he's gonna express himself by a cross-country trek at high speed, and the music is silly, but at the same time not bad, and it's kind of you know, it's a little bit catching, and you know, it really is kind of for the time, the sound effects and the visual effects were very late 70s, you know, low budget, and it was just a cute, funny thing that ripped on a lot of filmmaking stereotypes, and you know, a pretty likable character, and you know, it didn't matter if you, like Tony said, I should have made a bag of popcorn. You know, I was kind of at my desk doing some other things while I was watching it, but I probably should have just said, I'm done for the week, and made a bag of popcorn, and I might just do that and watch this intently, because I think it has some merit to it. It's got a real statement, and the people, the stereotyped characters, they're all real broadly painted, and you know, it's obviously a bunch of characters, personalities. It's neat that they got some personalities, like, Forrest Ackerman and people like that to be in it, and you know, just a funny, trippy little movie, and with a good point and a happy, you know, happy outlook and a happy ending, and you know, just kind of light and airy, and I really think it's something, if I'd seen it when I was a kid, I probably would have loved it and watched it over and over again. So I won't say any more because a lot of other people need to talk, but I kind of enjoyed it. K5ICX, NV5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia. And yeah, you know, just an aside, I you know, I used to get Variety, believe it or not, as a weekly thing to my house. I was so into that stuff. And now you get it all over the internet that you find out about all the problems with making even films with big stars, and it's on again, off again, director here, director fired, new director. It just goes on, and it can change, and the whole thing can go into development hell. So even the professionals, the ones that have been in this business a very, very long time, they sometimes get sidelined and sidetracked by the fickle Hollywood machine. So when that happens to the big boys and the big girls, and then everybody else that tries to break into the biz, finds it so perplexing and so weird that they think it's stacked against them, much like the wizard himself. But sometimes it's just the way the system works. It's so terrible, and it's been built in that weird, structured way. Okay, well, that's out of turn, I think. Let me go to Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, go ahead with your comments on the plot for The Wizard of Speed and Time from 1989.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, 2 weeks ago, we had probably one of the strongest movies we've ever watched on here. Last week was probably one of the worst movies we've ever watched, and this week might be the weirdest. Kind of an interesting trip around through the movies this month. We've kind of just about seen it all. But yeah, I think it's been pretty well covered about this movie. I mean, it's obviously a movie within a movie. It was just a lot of fun, you know, poking a lot of fun at Hollywood, showing the struggles, as everyone said. You know, it definitely had that. It felt very much, you know, early 80s special effects. You know, they you know, especially they kept showing the sparkles. They used to love to do that on all the TV shows then. So I got a chuckle out of that. You know, and then it was kind of neat seeing some of the old practical effects or special effects, how they used to make them back then. And this was definitely in the early times of, you know, special effects where they were starting to use computers, and you know even there's like, well, you got to use a computer. Well, no, you don't. You can still do things the older way with camera tricks, and you know, they even had the little joke in there about just the movies of the time. So yeah, it was an interesting movie. It's kind of hard to try and come up with something somebody hasn't already said. But it was just a little fun movie about, you know, getting broke into the industry, or trying to get noticed back then. I'd have to imagine it had to be awful tough, you know, to try to get noticed, especially if that was your specialty, special effects, getting in front of the right people. You know, unlike today where, you know, you see, you know, over the last 10 years, you see some up-and-coming directors and makers, you know, making stuff on YouTube and what have you, to, you know, kind of get their reels out there in front of people, and you know, they got an effective way to kind of get it out there, and then obviously if they get a lot of views, then it gets the attention of those, and some of those things there turned into real shows and movies. So, you know, yeah, I have to feel for this guy back in that time frame, because, yeah, that would have been tough to definitely break in, and just some of those challenges. And yeah, I think they did a very clever job of trying to integrate the jokes, you know, and poke fun, and at the same time, you know, make a good point. And yes, the cases I guess fun to ride around on. You know, and then yeah, they threw in a little bit of the mystic part of it. Yeah, this guy's got powers because he's so creative. You know, kind of part of it, and you did kind of have to take that at face value, but that was just part of the comedy, you know, to keep your attention. This movie definitely kept your attention, which is, you know, something a lot of times, a lot of the movies we watched have struggled to do. You know, they get slow, they get boring. Well, this one was definitely never slow, as in its title, Speed. There's a lot, it never slowed down. So I was definitely very intent to watch it all the way through, and I'll probably go back and watch it again since I'm now hearing there's things that was, you know, in between scenes there and what have you. So yeah, just overall, just a really fun movie, and just enjoyed it. Just something unique. And Tom, I was just wondering, is this how you do your movies? Is this how you do your creativeness? Do you run around like that? Anyway, back to that, KB9, that's okay.
Oh, thank you, Sean. No, but I can tell you this: when we do our movie stuff, we sit there and we just laugh and make fun of everything. We quote old movie lines and create our own absurd plots. So someday I'll talk about it. It's actually quite a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and you get paid for it too, which is even better. All right, next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, I'm really interested in what you have to say as well. Everybody's had some really interesting comments, but you always have this kind of oblique and interesting perspective. You know, I'm pumping you up to see what you got from KE5ICX.
KI5KWG. Yeah, no pressure, Tom. Actually, I want to hear what you all were just talking about, the making movies. Okay, with that intro that you just gave me, Tom, about having an oblique perspective, I was actually hesitating to go this route, but when you said that, I was like, well, you've got me nailed, so I'm going there. I watched this movie in 3 or 4 sections, I guess, over the week, and while in the midst of it, I was reminded of this time about 10 years ago. I was living in Austin, Texas. A lot of my friends were musicians and songwriters, all very creative types. And they knew I would be quietly sitting at this pub we all gathered at, especially Friday nights, and I would be writing until they kind of came over and said, no, time to play, and draw me out of my writing, and I'd close my notebook or my computer, and off we'd go play. Well, we were sitting outside on the deck, about 8 of us, I guess, at a picnic table, as typical on a Friday night, warm, summer, beautiful evening, and we're all about 2 beers into it, and we're just talking, telling stories, and we're laughing, and we all know each other very, very well. And so the jokes are coming, and it's becoming an improv session, comedy session. And I think I have topped it off. I have peaked comically that evening. And a lot of people will attest to this that were there. And my funny line was, wait, I suddenly have an idea for a new food truck. Everybody roared with laughter. I mean, gasping for breath, eyes watering, tears rolling down. So laughing so hard at that. One of my friends, Mike, a great guitarist, he's waving his hands, but he can't talk yet, but he's desperate to tell us. He's got a punchline to come on top of my punchline, and he finally ekes it out, and he says, and it's serving chocolate cake. And all just roar with laughter. Funniest lines in improv ever made. Got to be in the top 10 in history, but they mean nothing to anybody who wasn't there. And so here's the chaser. That was a shot. Here's the chaser. If I tried to make a movie from that experience, it's not going to be all that funny. It was definitely a had to be there, had to know each other, had to share the experience. And there's no way I can make that funny and tell people in the context of everything necessary for it. that's what I thought they were doing in this film with this plot. I thought it was a group of people who kind of shared some intimate understanding of certain things, and they wanted to share that with everybody else, but for me, it wasn't working. And I saw it as mildly amusing and maybe watchable, but I thought it was trying maybe too hard. That's what I've got on this plot. KI5, KWG, back to net.
All right, well, thank you, Cruz. Yeah, I've had a few sessions with people like that, too, especially after a few beers or something to drink. It loosens you up, and then you start thinking in weird ways. So, and like I said, my buddy, the guy who works for me does the videography stuff. He does the video work and audio and all that. He does a very good job, and he's super into movies, so we talk about movies all the time and finish each other's lines. And I will tell you this, it's we don't know where this comes from, but we anytime one says something stupid, the other one says, shh. Hold on, I can't, wait a minute, I gotta remember what it was. Now I can't even think what it is. Well, it's late at night. I want to say shut up Karen, but it's not shut up Karen, I can't remember. But anyway, it's like shut up Karen. But because I mixed that up with some other urban legend thing. What is it? Stacy. Shut up, Stacy. That's what we say. Shut up, Stacy. But you are in that wheelchair, Blanche. You are. Which is a line from Sunset. I'm sorry, from Whatever Happened to Mary. Baby Jane. Boy, I guess I am late. Boy, maybe I better start drinking again. I can't get sentences out anymore. That would be things like that, and there's no business like show business. We do that all the time. Ethel Merman. Did you know that Ethel Merman and Anthony Newley sing exactly alike? I do it here, but I get in trouble with the But glomming onto your point, probably with doing this movie and all the people and the ensemble cast and everything, it probably made some sense. Now there is a fan faction out there that really loves this film, especially the original 5-minute version, which is basically what you see at the very end. It's a little bit expanded as it's mentioned in the Wikipedia, but in the end it is quite interesting. The whole thing, and it has built up a cult audience, and so people want to know about him. He's gone to conventions. He's probably talked about the films enthusiastically. He's created this mythical character that's in this film. Who is this guy? Is he Pee Wee Herman? What is he really like? And I suspect the way he acts in the film is how he acts in front of other people. And he does wear his green jacket to wherever he goes. So that he carries that persona with him as well. So I think that's pretty cool. Another thing that he did that is kind of interesting, and it may affect the plot, I don't know. It's more about characterization, but the fact that he was able to woo in some of these people to do this film, probably for nothing, is quite interesting as well. Virginia mentioned that she thought, well, maybe Pee Wee Herman got his ideas, from this. I would say probably true. It has the Pee Wee Herman whole vibe to it. Since we know that one probably better than this, since it came actually after, but I've never seen this film until this week. So I guess I got to refer back, and even though I think this guy probably created everything. I thought it was quite fascinating. I love the idea that, especially in the film, when he talks about how do you do stop action, and you see all this stuff, and you're like, wow, that's really amazing. It's fantastic. It's all done. There's no real special effects to the whole thing. And he sits down and he shows the director who's trying to ruin him, but he shows him, this is how we do it, one frame at a time, and it's really boring. And I can imagine it's like that, you know, that you have to go on and on and on. You got to keep track of everything. That would make you insane and want to wear green jackets and go really fast, I guess. But that was quite interesting, as well as some of the other unique effects that he did. Obviously, you know, in the film, let me reset. I'm thinking, I don't know for sure, but maybe that really is his house with these special effects thrown in, unless he's really got little robots and toys that actually move like that. He might. Could be an alien, who knows. But all of the effects, he showed how to do some of those effects, not only the stop action, but the starry rotating thing. He showed that, which was pretty cool. All of those things were practical effects that he had created for his movies, and he showed us how he did some of them in the process of doing this feature film. Now, I'm not so smart. A lot of times when they throw something obvious into the picture, I don't always notice it. But I did notice the one where he needs more power because he's got all this stuff that he has collected that he's rented to do this film from the local, movie supply house, literally. Because you're going to need a lot of power to make this all work. You need a studio for power. All you got is house power. You got power in the house, and that's it. He says, but I can tap into the main grid. And he shows a power plant, and it's a plant, a potted plant, and he takes the positive and negative clips, and he puts it on the plant, gets all the power, and everything powers up. A power plant. So that was probably the most obvious. There are probably a million others in there that I missed. It's just you blink your eyes and you miss things. It is worth reviewing and watching again and again, I suppose. You're up to that, and freeze framing to get some of the lines and things that are going on. So I think that's kind of cool too. And that's the reason that bring you back to see the film once again, is to see those things over and over again. For those of you interested, I'll just do this aside and then we'll go back to the top. But there is a fellow who has done a multi-part YouTube talking about Stanley Kubrick's, what was the movie? Hang on, I'll think of it. The Shining. I had to remember why I'm running the films through my head. If you get a chance, watch it. It is multi-part, talking about what was the real plot to The Shining, and talking about who was crazy and who wasn't. And maybe you were looking at the film through the wrong person's eyes. It is really fascinating, and as you watch it, I think it's in 2 or 3 parts, and they're each a half hour long. And the guy goes through each individual scene and explains it in detail as to why you should interpret the scene differently. And knowing Kubrick as well as anybody who's ever, read about Kubrick, and I have done some of the things that appear on screen would be very Kubrick-like and not mistakes. And it's just fascinating. You might want to check it out. Cruise, go look for it. You'll sit transfixed by the whole thing if you have not. But I think this group would find it quite fascinating. Maybe we should do it as a movie and discuss it. I think it would be fantastic. All right, that's it for me. Let me see if there's additional folks out there that want to check in. Anybody else want to check in? We're talking about tonight's movie called The Wizard of Space and Time from 1989. Or if you just want to say you're out there, that's fine too. Please come now. All right, no problem. Let's go to the top of the list. We'll start with Tony again, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think of the characterization for this film? Anybody who stands out, or anything about our main character that you would like to discuss from KE5ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom. I want to add one quick. It's the Wizard of Speed Time. I got that wrong too, but I'm trying to learn to say it right, so I'm going to share that advice with you. It's The Wizard of Speed and Time. And yes, I really loved the Pee Wee Herman references. I think, and you also kind of slipped and mentioned Sunset Boulevard. I think if Pee Wee Herman had directed Sunset Boulevard and probably produced it as well, this is the movie we would have gotten. I really did enjoy our main character because he was an artist, but also he was determined to have. He was not Charles Foster Kane. He wasn't a tortured character. He just genuinely both wanted to have movies and play with the toys of movie making, and that's what made him so identifiable. Like, I want a camera like that, and I want to make an animated robot invasion of the universe. The other characters, of course, were mostly stereotypes, but they were definitely fun ones. But yeah, I really enjoyed that our protagonist seemed to enjoy himself. That helped me enjoy the film as well. I'll have some third-round comments about many of the toys and props in the movie, but that's all for now. NT5TM.
Okie dokie, thank you, Tony. And next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Your comments on characterization from KE5ICS.
BZW. I'm so conflicted about this section because a lot of the stuff that we normally reserve for the third section, I think also kind of fits here, even though I am talking about, non-human, I would call it inanimate, but that's not true. They're very animate, but they're still like non. The toys really are kind of a distinct the group of them. Maybe not distinct. What's the term? They played very much a character in the film. It almost feels like they might have influenced the creative Toy Story or whatnot. There's just so much that these little gremlin things, electronic things, just kind of get in the way and do whatever. It's just, I don't know, some of them are more like ants than anything, but some more, they shouldn't happen because I'd have to review the movie again just to say what exactly happened, but yeah. There's, I guess I'll save the so-called subliminal stuff. Although you already mentioned the power plant, I don't know. Maybe I won't save it. There's and they loaded this stuff with references. Clearly, that's all. I don't know why I get excited when I see references to the Church of the Subgenius, but ever since it's like one of those weird things that I found a reference to that embedded in the Atari ST font, system font. The guy with the smoking pipe, but it's kind of drawn that way. I saw two references of that, so I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff. Let me see if there's anything else I can say at this point. Just to finish up on characters, yeah, I did appreciate the negling at somebody else's point, but I do appreciate the honesty of the artist, the person who wants to create a thing, and it doesn't have to fit a particular horrible stereotype. No, they want to produce something that's fun and that everybody, that hopefully other people will recognize as fun, and there's still the work ethic and everything, but I love the main character's passion, and to be honest, as a person that sometimes has trouble finding that. There's some inspiration in that, especially with all the obstacles placed in front of him. But other than that, I think I'll hand it to the next person. KG5BTW. Back to you.
Hi, thank you, Jay. Next up is Chris, K0FER. Whoops, I took my foot off the pedal. K0FER, Chris, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX?
Not much to say about the characterization. I don't think there was a whole lot of depth to this film, but it was still fun. Some of the things I enjoyed most were that there was a Canadian thug, which seemed to go against the whole politeness culture that we associate with that country. And also loved how the thugs gave that drunk producer, the one that looked like Ron Jeremy, his own card from his own wallet that they lifted. The movie was full of just little things like that. Little side notes, like I enjoyed how one of the Union SEALs was a vulture holding what looked like to be a film. I thought, okay, that's pretty dang clever. But yeah, it was fun, but not much to say in terms of characterization. Back to Matt, K0FER.
Okay, that's okay. I found some things out, but I had to find them on Wiki, but I'll talk about them as though they were my ideas, but they aren't. Next up is Virginia. MB5S, Virginia, what you think of characterizations in this fine film from KE5ICX?
KE5ICX, NB5F. Well, I talked a little bit in my first one about the main character, which I think he does represent the ideal and the goodness that's in a lot of people who want to make beautiful, inspiring, just genuine things. And there are people like that in the entertainment industry, and people like that who want to be able to do the things they want to do. They want people to see what they've done and be inspired and moved and uplifted by it. And I think that's what he represented, and I think, like I said before, I think that's what his whimsical, supernatural, powers kind of represented, that genuineness and innocence and sincerity. And he was not like you said earlier, he was not he didn't, he had his struggles and his frustrations, and he was a very mild-mannered, almost phlegmatic character, but he and he definitely had moments where he was not doing well and expressed that. The scene where he takes all his little boxes of film and puts them out in the yard and sets them on fire, in the most terrible moment where he's, not, when he just thinks it's over. And I've had moments like that in the very not too distant past. and I identify with this guy a lot. That, you know, inability to give up, and it's not about making money or being important. It really is about what you love, and that's deep down at the bottom of where I come from. So I get this guy, and you know, there's the typical, like, he meets the girl who's beautiful and blonde, and maybe an unlikely match for him. You know, she could probably get any guy she wants, and she falls for a mild-mannered, creative guy, and you know, that seems to be a fictional sort of thing, but hey, those things can happen, and that's a very, you know, it's all really pretty stereotypical, but some of it was unexpected and pretty funny. Some of the characters, you know, did some unexpected things, and some of them were very stereotyped, and I think Brenda and I once talked about us maybe watching Short Circuit for this sometime. It's like my favorite movie of all time, and right now it's really popular to go to look back, you know, 30 or 40 years and really bash how the stereotypes were done in movies. And back then, people really could laugh at themselves and laugh at each other. And Short Circuit has been kind of getting a resurgence, you know, because all the people who loved it when they were kids are now kind of coming into their kind of early middle age, and there's a you know, a nostalgia trend towards those movies of that era. And at the same time, all the, you know, a lot of the media and the people who weren't even alive, you know, weren't even thought of when movies like this came out, you know, they're all trashing everything and talking about how horrible they are, and they're not. They're just fun. And you know, those crazy Mexican cops or whatever, they're driving like a I think I made a joke last night that they got their police car from Cuba, and because it was so old, and you know, but it was just, you had the stereotypical sort of Jewish guys. You know, there's a lot of that in the film industry. You had the union guys. You had the you know, the pretty dancers in their leotards, and you know, it was just a total riff on Hollywood. But at the same time, it was very good natured, and it was hopeful. You know, and I thought the characters were fun and crazy, and there were some, you know, really obvious things, but I liked the main character, and I liked the little gal who liked him, and, you know, even the bad guys in this weren't that bad. They were just kind of, you know, Hollywood types, and you know, I liked it pretty well. I thought it was just, you know, take it for what it is, and, you know, a good effort to make something that people could. And Cruz, you know, he had a good point about it's kind of, you had to be there sort of thing. And I got a degree in film, and I leaned towards being an artist and an animator, and I actually went out to LA and worked in the video game industry doing animation for a little while, and even on that, and that was more on the periphery than it is now. Video games are taking over everything right now, but you know, even then, you were really in the entertainment industry, because I was working with animators who'd worked at Disney and Hanna-Barbera and all these big companies, and they were working at the little company that I worked at, because you go from job to job, and when you don't have a job, you get whatever job, and it might be something big, and it might be something little, and like you were saying, Tom, even the big people, you have to have a certain temperament to not give up in that industry. And speaking of Short Circuit, they have tried to remake Short Circuit about 3 times, and it has fallen apart in pre-production every single time, because a lot of things get started and most of them never get finished. So that's Hollywood. So it's a fun, funny, lighthearted look at a lot of the catch-22s and pitfalls of the biz, and I thought the characters, you know, made it likable. So anyway, K5ICX, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. I think you're beginning to finger exactly what is the vibe with this film, at least to me. Is that, you know, it's the talk tonight, the Hollywood experience, or horror story, depending on how you look at it. And everybody's thrown into that barrel and how it comes out. Oh, you made some great comments. I'm going to reserve on some of that in a little bit. KB9SOK, Sean, your thoughts on characterization for this fine film, which is The Wizard of Speed and Time. Yes, I had a problem with the title. I even called it something else because it looked like something else to me mentally. But go ahead, Sean from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I'm not sure I can follow Virginia on that. Very well covered. Some great points there. Yeah, it's don't really have a lot to add other than yeah, obviously the main character obviously was the most interesting, and you know we kind of learn what his passions are and you know his journey to get there, and but yeah, everybody else was just pretty much stereotypical, but just kind of stereotypical but to the extreme. But that was more for the comedy effect, which keeps your attention. And obviously that's the point. They don't want to lose your attention because then you won't see what the film was about. So it was clever to do that. And yeah, you know, I do kind of miss some of these films of the past. I agree that sometimes it's okay just to have a film that's fun. You know, we don't have to have all of our main characters dying off or being destroyed or, and I know today they like to try to get more realism, but sometimes it is fun just to see it, just a good old-fashioned feel-good movie. You know, we get to see this guy finally realize his dream, and his friends too, along with him, they helped him out. And I think there's something to be said about that. And there is a trend right now, especially I've noticed over the last year. Some of the movie reviewers I've seen online, that is all they want to do is bash the old movies right now, saying, how horrible they were, and because, these people weren't open-minded and shouldn't have been doing these stereotypical characters. And I have noticed that, too, here recently. That seems to be a huge trend, and there's even a huge group of individuals that are, I don't know how large it is, but I've seen a big push of a group of people trying to get a lot of even the older Disney movies banned or shut down because they felt that the storylines are inappropriate. And so it's like, you got to take it for what it is in the time frame when it was done. And, it's just, I can definitely see that point, and that is, a little frustrating. I would also vote the Seashore Circuit again. It's been years since I've seen it. That'd be a fun one to review on here. Not a whole lot to add, so I'll go ahead and send it back to Ned. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Thank you for the comments. I put Short Circuit up here on the list. I'll see what I can do on find that one's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit dodgy to find for free. I mean, it's a popular enough movie that people will pay $3 to rent it, to watch it. So it kind of doesn't end up in the free streaming all that often, but every once in a while it does. But I'll put it down on the list somewhere and see if I can find it. All right, next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what you got for us on characterization? From what you remember over the 4 days you watched this movie from KE5ICX.
KI5KWG. I don't have much on characterization. I did have the thought that it was kind of interesting how over the top Jitlov was in his characterization of the wizard, but then juxtapose that to how he was when he was interacting with other people, just being an animator and a special effects animator, and he was very down to earth and more real than any other character in the film. And everybody else was kind of over the top in all of their scenes, and no matter how they were interacting. Maybe there was some intention in that, and maybe a point in that about Hollywood, and that most people are a little bit beyond themselves in the industry. and playing roles more or less cast for them rather than themselves. And this one was flipping, the animator was flipping back and forth. Not sure. That's more probably Kubrick style than that film deserves for that kind of meat. Now, people mentioning favorite films, I just had to, in passing here, as an aside, I'm going to reset. As an aside, was asked on some web page the other day is a favorite film with ham radio, and the Anderson tapes came to mind. And I'll just say that. You can go look it up and see why ham radio plays a part in it. It's an old crime film, Sean Connery in it. Christopher Walken got his first feature film starred in it. Anyway, cool ham radio stuff in that film. Now, last part, and I'm glad we're going to look at Short Circuit. I'll probably end up watching that film over the weekend. But I did want to ask Tom if you would clarify. I tried to do some searching on the Shining documentary sort of thing you were looking at, and there's so many options that seem to fit that. If you could nail that down and put it on our Facebook page or email, or maybe you can even spring out with it right now before this net ends. That's what I've got. KI5, KWG, back to net.
All right, thank you, Cruz, and thanks. I'm looking for this for The Shining here. I think I found it, but I will look. Boy, I found that thing accidentally, and but I'll find it. I will find it before the end. Let's see. My comments on the film, as far as characterization. Well, a few things. Of course, I had to cheat and look at Wikipedia, but there's some things in there, and I thought about names that were given, some of the subliminal messages, like, and they mention this in the wiki. It says here the two real police officers that were played by Philip Michael Thomas and Linda Alden are named Nicky Polanco and Minnie Smith, respectively, in the film, and the police dog's name is Pluto. There you go, Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto. It also says down here, it says two characters are given names related to cigarettes. We got Lucky Striker, that one I picked up immediately, Bookman's director, and Dora Belair, an assistant to the competing show's producer. And then Mike Jitloff says he named them that because everyone in Hollywood gets burned. Let's see, there was something else here too. There was something about. Well, here's something interesting that says here that when Mike speaks to the union representatives, we're all shot at the same desk in the same room, with veteran voiceover artist Will Ryan playing all the representatives. And then he says here, the film union seal shows a vulture with a twisted strip of film in its talons. That was pretty funny, and you blink, you miss stuff. I mean, it goes by so quickly. Another reason why it makes repeated viewings, I think, even though it's a bit wonky. Yes, maybe you should drink before you watch it, or something, so to allow you to absorb the film without too much a critical. Just absorb it, rather than try and keep up with it, because keeping up with it is difficult. It's like Morse code, you know? You have to absorb Morse code to be able to hear the words mentally. If you try and listen to the letters, forget it. You'll never figure it out. If there's an analogy that is ham radio related, that might be one of them. I like the character. He was a bit over the top. Jitloff's character was a little over the top, but it's supposed to be him anyway, so why not, right? There was there was a cameo in there with Forrest Ackerman. I don't know when he was in there, but I missed him. He is sort of this legendary writer, agent, super fan who was in science fiction, horror, and fantasy films. A very unusual character. If you want to read up on somebody who's a bit crazy, but admired by fans everywhere, check out Forrest Ackerman. That's quite fascinating. Some of the other people in it, of course, was Angelique Pettyjohn. Now, I don't know where she showed up in this thing, but you would remember her as Shanra in The Gamester's Triskelion, you know, the one in the silver suit and the hair and all that, and whatever that thing was she was carrying around with her, and was friends with Captain Kirk. I'll be looking for you in the stars, and the sad ending, and then you know what happens, and the vendor overlords take them all back and put them back in prison. But you know, Kirk should have at least gone back and checked on them. But I digress. I guess that's it. Everyone kind of played over the top like you would expect, and yeah, our main character was the most sympathetic and most understanding and relatable. Everybody else was kind of like nuts, over the top. Although his groupies, the people who helped him make the film, were quite enthusiastic about the whole thing. And I love the fact that they're, you know, driving down with all this equipment in the back of that Jeep. I mean, it's real equipment. I don't know. It looked like it really did have rental stuff all printed all over it. I don't think he owns that stuff, so he probably did rent it, and he's treating it like it's not rental stuff. So there's that. Everyone else, okay, you know, sort of stereotypes like it was mentioned earlier. I was okay with that. It's kind of, you know, they show the Keystone Cops, right? Which, by the way, the two guys that play the fake policeman and with the car, the ancient police car and all that, I thought they were pretty funny. And I love the fact that the real cops end up in the fake police car because they took off with the other car. That was pretty hilarious, too. Somehow or another, I just found that rather funny. Highly improbable, but would it really be? We know we've seen chase scenes on YouTube with, you know, criminals taking police cars and on joyrides, and that's kind of what happened there. And they're sitting there and saying, if you wait long enough, everything will pass you by. And they turn and they look like our police car that went by them when they said that line. I think this movie is starting to grow on me. I don't know, and I think it's maybe a moth or a fungus or something. All right, well, let's see. Oh, boy, we're at 11:52. Let's get to the top of this thing and talk about special effects. So, Tony, NT5TM, what do you got on special effects, my friend?
Okay, well, I liked a lot of people's comments on some of the little homages in this movie. I would point out that in one of our crowd scenes near the end, we did get someone dressed as if they were a character in Logan's Run, one of the Sandmen with the black uniform with the gray stripe. Also, something that played a big role in his short film was one of the very first special effects, what's called the Phantom Ride. When you would try to move a camera on, you know, some primitive rollers that they had in early filmmaking days, it would shake a lot. But they found that if you clamped the camera to something big and heavy, like a locomotive that weighed millions of pounds, it would appear to be floating. So there were all kinds of shots in early movies of cameras that seemed to be floating along roads or railroad tracks because they'd been clamped to a heavy vehicle. And he seemed to make a lot of use of that in his kind of zoomy Wizard of Speed bits there at the end. Which I thought was fun. I really loved the fact that when he showed himself, you know, bouncing off the wall there one step at a time, that they used that in the short film shown at the end, and really, yeah, it's like, you know, frame by frame stuff takes forever, people. Pay attention to that. But what I really wanted to not forget to say in the third round was that my brother and I had some of the toys in this movie. That robot arm that keeps trying to hand him Super 8 film cartridges in their boxes, Yeah, my brother and I both had those. That was a strange toy, but a very nerdy one. You could try to like pick up things and move them around, and had to kind of plan out. Oh yeah, the robot arm can only move this way. There was a toy that appeared behind our protagonist that was called Capsella. They were these clear plastic spheres with gears of different kinds in them, reduction gears and all sorts of hollow crown wheel things and propellers and impellers and various sorts of cams and whatnot, and you could put them together in various ways to make odd little machines. And he had one of those behind him, and I think we see Capsella parts in several odd bits. And finally, there were these things that looked like eggplants on spider legs. I don't know how to describe them. They bounced along the floor. They were like a black sphere with these little moving legs that were on steel rods. I don't know how to describe them, but my brother had several of them, just like the protagonist did. Thought that was cool because it was the 80s for us too, and there he was being part of it. So I liked the Phantom Ride. I really liked the fact that he showed some of the effects he was going to use later on, how he was building them. Yeah, people have also talked about the the frame by frame stuff and the producer's impatience with that when he had all the film cans. It really takes that long. Producers, go somewhere else. Be patient. And I loved seeing all those toys all throughout the movie. NT5TM.
Man, you ended it so quickly. I was just put a bunch of peanuts in my mouth. All right, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on special effects from K5ICX.
KG5BZW, and yeah, there's so many special effects, and it's just things just so packed full of them. I mean, whether they're practical or just other ways. I think I'd have to watch it again just to choose what one I really wanted to comment on here. I do have to say, admittedly, I already talked about the toys being a character or whatnot, but there's so many of them, I was a little bit jealous. I didn't really have that many toys when I was growing up, but anyway. What else? Don't know that I have much else to say on this section. There's a lot that could be said, but nothing just popping into my head is like, yeah, this must be said. So I think I'll just hand it to the next person. I've enjoyed tonight, and look forward to hearing about the next movie after I hear all the other comments. Love what I've been hearing. KG5BZW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next is Chris, K0FER. Chris, what'd you think of the special effects for our movie, The Wizard of Speed and Time? Uh-oh, it's getting close to the witching hour, so I think people are probably starting to drop off. NV5F, Virginia. Virginia, what did you think of the special effects for our movie this evening?
K5ICX, this is NV5F. I am still awake. Well, the movie was almost all special effects, or it was very heavily special effects, but that was the whole point. was that this guy was, the creator of it was a talented effects animator and wanted to showcase that talent, and probably in hopes of getting jobs on more movies to do the same thing. And it was, for the time, we had just been treated to things like Star Wars and Close Encounters and that sort of thing, bigger budgets and bigger, more grand things. This is kind of a long, kind of smaller effects in small doses over a long, period of time. But I think it worked. I think the little sparkly things and lighting effects and the stop motion animation, which that is grueling and boring to do. Even people who love what they're doing, that is tedium. And if you mess up one frame, you have to go back and start over. So I applaud all the practical animated effects that are in this, because that stuff, back then, that stuff was, it was very, very painstaking, and it was a labor of love. So yeah, I thought the effects were pretty good, and the kind of showcased, the kind of the big scene at the end that was sort of the point of the whole movie was the kind of speed scene where he is going, all across the country and all over the world, and I thought that was pretty good. I remember when I was watching that last night, I felt exhilarated, and I got the sense of the speed, and it was convincing in a way that, well, I knew none of it was real, and it didn't really necessarily look real, but it was real in the context of what I'd been watching for the past hour and a half, and I thought everything was like visually pleasing, and all of the little sequences, the kind of music video sequences and stuff at the beginning, and I even liked the opening. They even did some nice nods to, the space program and stuff in there, so some space things. And I loved the scene in the big ending when he goes up to, and sees the space shuttle, and all the astronauts see him there, and I thought that was really cute, and I thought it was very well done for the time, and I think the space shuttle was just an idea at that point. They didn't have a space shuttle in space in 1979, so I thought it was a pretty good job on the special effects. I thought the music was contagious and a little campy, but pretty good music. I commented last night that the closing credits music sounded like it was inspired by Don Dorsey's music from the Main Street Electrical Parade at Disneyland, and I really honestly think that. I really think that was all the synthesizers, and then the way they did counterpoint with the music at the end of the movie was definitely very inspired by that, and just positive, light, fun special effects were the same way, and I thought they were pretty nice, and definitely showcased his talents. KE5ICX.
Repeater, timeout for 15 seconds. Timeout. Timer reset. Repeater enabled.
Well, it timed out only because we went to midnight.
Leave it to me to be the first person to ever make the repeater do that in V5F.
The time is 12:05 a.m.
Well, you know what the crazy part was is that you had just finished You had just finished, and then it popped on like a half a second after that. So you managed to get all your comments in under the wire, and it decided, I don't care, and got mad. So anyway, let's see here. Let's move along. I got Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on special effects? I think you said you had something.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. No, I did, must have somebody else, not anything in particular. Obviously, this movie was nothing but special effects, so, and I'm sure we could spend a lot of time if we wanted to kind of go through frame by frame and talk about one effect after another, because that's all it was. Yes, this wasn't a big budget Star Wars film or anything like that at the time, but, you know, I think the effects were very effective for, you know, either a lower budget movie or definitely television. So yeah, I think I'll just say I think special effects were well done for what it was, and obviously this definitely showed what he could do, which is really what it was. The advertisement for his abilities. So that's, and the music was cute. I think it was fine. It fit the theme of the show very well. So yeah, the music was decent as well. And other than that, I'll just say, yeah, just kind of a fun little film. I may watch it again sometime to kind of catch all the stuff that I missed. And other than that, looking forward to the next one. So yeah, this is KB9SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. And next is Cruz. Cruz, I found it. It's called, for The Shining, there's actually two parts. The first part is called The Wendy Theory. This finally explains The Shining. And it's done by Rob Navarro. And he does have a second part. I don't know what it's called. It's not linked into the thing, I don't think. But look for his name, and I think you'll find the second half of this thing. But I also found it bubbled to the top somebody else who did another video that says, the Wendy theory is bad. No, this does not finally explain The Shining. And that one's 29 minutes long, so you've got a lot of viewing to watch. I think you'll find it quite fascinating. And I'm now curious about what the other guy says and how he feels that he had to go and make this other movie or short to talk about the first one that kind of sounded cool, really. All right, Cruz, your comments on special effects for this film from KE5ICX.
KI5KWG. I think my favorite was his running down the wall and seeing that at the end. I enjoyed that. I knew what he was up to at the beginning, and it was fun to see it put together at the end. Music bothered me a bit, and it was that it seemed such a children's show type of music, and I don't know why it didn't seem to fit for me. And now I should back down a little bit on this. I'm listening to the rest of y'all obviously enjoying this more than I did. And I had lost my power supply from my radio last week. And I also had an upper respiratory infection, and that was why I watched it in several small snippets because I kept falling asleep. So that would explain my, I think, rather dour, my less than enthusiastic impression of this film. So, I figured Tom was going to talk about the music anyway. KI5KWG, back to net.
All right, thank you, Cruz. Well, that's fine. Short and sweet. The guy who did the music is John Massari, and he is known for a number of things. He's done music for television shows, Ray Bradbury Theater, Heart to Heart. Did music for Johnny Quest, Wonderful World of Disney. That's probably why you got that vibe with it sounding like something from Disney. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which, by the way, was the Spin Woolley movie this evening. Did the music for that. he's got a bazillion credits in here. Wonderful World of Disney theme he wrote. So there's that too. He's got about 30 references over here on Wikipedia that you may recognize. I don't know if you call him an A-list composer, although I guess he kind of is because he managed to work through all of that. But his music is kept him working. Ray Bradbury Theater is another. At any rate, I don't know. I kind of liked it. Yeah, it was a little bit distracting, but I think the way the film was playing out, it might have been an issue. I actually kind of liked the theme. After I got the vibe of the film and decided, let me reset. I got a feeling for how the vibe of the film was going to be. This kind of feeling that you're going to have all through it. The music sort of fit at that point. I kind of liked the music overall, and it seemed to fit the film. But I can understand how it would be how it could be annoying to you, and even to me at the beginning, I found it slightly annoying. Then after that, I kind of just relaxed with it, and I was fine. The special effects, what can you say? The guy did it on a shoestring budget. Without the shoestring, if I remember, that was one of the lines. So I was perfectly fine with that. Stop motion stuff's been around since Ray Harryhausen and before, and has always been done to some success. So I thought that was perfectly fine. And then just simply the way it was all filmed was really quite fun. Guy obviously put in thousands of hours of work, even though they show it, he does it only in a few hours to get it all done at great expense, but we know better than that. Even on the videos and stuff that we do in my office, the stuff comes back. I always tell everybody that asks for stuff. They say, I'm going to tell you, a 5-minute video does not take 5 minutes to make. And no, it doesn't take less time. And you tell them, they want something, you tell them it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and they go, but it's just a 5-minute video. No, it's not. It's a lot of work to make your frickin' 5-minute video. Get out of here. Shut up, Stacy. So at any rate, oh well. So I enjoyed it. I don't know what else to say. It's all on screen. I thought it was quite entertaining, and it's amazing he was able to do what he did on virtually no money, as he mentioned in the film. All right, well, let's see here. What are we doing for next week? Well, next week's film is something different. I think this is actually a web film that was done a while back. We're going back to the Stargate universe. This is one that I was not aware of, but is there. It's called Stargate Origins, Catherine from 2018. Set in 1939. Let's see if I can get the whole thing here. It does give you a description. Set in 1939, the daughter of an archaeologist who discovered the Stargate adventures into the unknown to save her father and the Earth from Nazis. So it's got Stargate, it's got Nazis in it, it's probably got Egyptian stuff in it. You name it, they got it. Stargate Origins is next week. So there you have it. For anybody listening that wants to venture in and participate next week and has not done so, and I know we have several new people who were checked in on the earlier net and even on this net we're talking. Just go to Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow Movie on Facebook, and just sign in or look, and you'll see all of the movies are listed under the guide. I had to move to guide because they had changed the way they worked with a live document. So using the guide, you can see the films in order and the dates that we potentially will watch them. So by all means do that. And you'll find them there. If you don't like that sort of thing, you can send me an email, KE5IXDX, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray at yahoo.com. I'll put you on the list and I'll send you what the latest movie for the week would be. I usually do it Sunday morning, sometime during coffee time, so you should have it. And I'll get it out before I head out for my morning run. I see time, everybody. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I love this. Secretly, this is my favorite net. So I guess it's not so secret anymore. See you all next time. This is KE5 Ice. The accent's clear. Bye-bye.
W5FC.